Tennessee Titans fans, it is that time of week where we get on Reddit and see what Tennessee Titans fans are saying. And this week is the first one where we actually have some questions and comments from the personal Two-Tone Talk Reddit page. There is a link to that in the video description and in the pinned comment below. Go over there and get on that Reddit page and leave your questions, comments, memes, whatever, that we will check out every week here on the channel. This week, we're going to look at a few from the Two-Tone Talk page and then jump over and look at some from the Tennessee Titans page as well. Up first, we've got this post on the Two-Tone Talk page, which says, I think we have to give Brian Callahan till midseason next year. Unfortunately, if he starts out losing a bunch of games in a row next season, they should remove him then and put in an interim head coach at that time. Would love to see him work it out, but he has a lot of in-game situational progress to make. Big question mark. Well, he is certainly a big question mark. And I think for most people, that would be the general consensus, that you give him until next year. Even if you are not on board with Callahan at all, I think the most important thing is if you are going to bring Will Levis back next season, I think you have to bring back Brian Callahan. I don't think it is remotely fair to make Will Levis learn another new offense this offseason. I don't think that's in his best interest. I don't think that is in the organization's best interests. If you are going to bring Will Levis back next year, I think you have to bring back Brian Callahan. Although I understand Brian Callahan has left a lot to be desired in his first year, I agree with this user. You have to start the season with him next year. And if it's no better, if you get to the halfway point and you're awful, then it's time to part ways. But I do think Brian Callahan will be the head coach of this team going into week 1 next year. Here's another post from the Two-Tone Talk Reddit page. Dan the Man, 1989, says, I know it's kind of early to be talking about the offseason, but there's no chance of us making the playoffs. So what do you think we draft in the first round? I think we can get the best player that's available and get whatever we don't get in free agency. But to me, our top priority is edge rush, then right tackle, then wide receiver. What are your thoughts? Well, there are certainly a lot of needs on this team. That's why it's so imperative that we give Will Levis another go next year, because we really are not in a position to be spending a first-round pick on a quarterback. We have so many other needs on the team. Obviously, if the Titans are in the top 10, people are going to talk about Abdul Carter. People are going to talk about Travis Hunter. People are going to talk about some of the wide receivers up there. I think as far as right tackle goes, the general consensus is there are not enough tackles that people are just jumping up and down about at this point in the draft that would merit drafting one in the top 10. I think if the Titans are in the top 10, which it certainly looks like they will be, I think wide receiver or edge rush is the move. I feel like right tackle, maybe you can get a good right tackle in the second round, or you can certainly, no pun intended, tackle that issue in free agency. But I think if you've got a top 10 pick, this team needs some youth in the wide receiver room, so I certainly think it makes sense to go wide receiver more than it does tackle in this particular draft. And if you have a shot at Abdul Carter at edge rush, I think you absolutely go that route as well. Still on the Two-Tone Talk page from BRavens1223. Now, this is a Ravens fan asking this. Besides the obvious, Isaiah Wilson, what's the biggest draft bust that the Tennessee Titans have had in the past 15 years? Jake Locker, Caleb Farley, Rashaan Evans, Treylon Burks. Outside of Isaiah Wilson, to me personally, the biggest bust has to be Treylon Burks because of the situation surrounding it. We traded A.J. Brown. We traded the best wide receiver we've ever had, and seconds later drafted Treylon Burks to presumably be his replacement. And that is a miserable situation for Treylon Burks to be thrown into at the start. But Treylon has just, he's not stayed healthy, has not been active. I mean, I think he may have been inactive for more of his Titans run than he's been active for. He's, left a lot to be desired when he is on the field. And so to me, Treylon Burks has been the biggest bust because it's factored with the A.J. Brown trade, and that John Robinson apparently thought that Treylon was going to come in and just fill A.J.'s shoes. what a disaster. And I've said it time and time again. That moment was the moment that things really started going south for the Tennessee Titans that night when we traded AJ and then drafted Traylon. So that's why I said Traylon Burks is the biggest draft bust other than Isaiah Wilson. Now we're jumping over to the Tennessee Titans Reddit page where Titans Front Row says Narveson is back. Braden Narveson was signed back to the practice squad. This was the kid who had a pretty impressive preseason game against Green Bay. I don't think it was against Green Bay. I think you're getting it confused. He went and played for Green Bay for a number of weeks. A lot of people are concerned because Nick Folk, who has been really good at kicking for the Titans the past 2 seasons, is hurt. So there's been some speculation about whether or not he's going to be able to play for the remainder of the season. But to me, I say, would it be the worst thing in the world for somebody like a Braden Narveson to get a chance to kick for the Titans? I mean, Nick Folk is 40 years old. I think his contract is up with the Titans after this season. There is a good chance that he is not going to be back with Tennessee next season. I mean, who knows? But there is a strong possibility he's not back next year. So in that case, the Titans are going to need a new kicker. And so you could use the remainder of this season as a tryout for Braden Narveson to see if you want to give him the job next season. I mean, this is far from the worst thing for the Tennessee Titans if Nick Folk cannot kick and Braden Narveson takes his place. With an eye to the future, the Titans are already mathematically eliminated. So I think there could be a lot worse things happen than for Braden Narveson to get a chance to kick some for the Titans. Rocket2112 says, I am still with this team. All the negativity really is dragging me down. Don't know about y'all. I've been a fan since they moved to Tennessee, a fan of the NFL for much longer. I see other teams that suffer through terrible seasons after good seasons. I have seen teams who were terrible turn around and win the Super Bowl. It can happen. I am still with this team. I will never give up on this team. And that's just the way it is. I mean, you know, we love the Tennessee Titans, win or lose, whether it's pretty or whether it's ugly. We're here. We love this team. And for somebody like me personally, I mean, I was there when they lost 59-0 to the Patriots in the snow. I was there the night they got our hearts broken against the Bengals. I mean, I've been there for all the low points. There's really no getting rid of me at this point. I'm here. And I said this even after the terrible Jaguars game on Sunday. I wore my Tennessee Titans sweatshirt to the grocery store the next day because even at their worst, I'm with them. I might be disappointed. I might be sad. I might be angry, but I ain't going nowhere. Last question here. Who do you feel is most to blame for this 3-10 team? Ran Carthon gets 41 votes. Brian Callahan gets 210 votes. Will Levis gets 56 votes, and someone else gets 159 votes. I mean, listen, I talked about this on the podcast earlier today. When you're this bad, when you're 3-10, there is no one person to blame. You don't fall to 3-10 and look as bad as the Titans have looked for much of this season. You don't do that just because of one person. I mean, there have been times where I think Brian Callahan has not even remotely been close to good enough. I think there have been times when Will Levis was not even close to good enough. There have been times when Calvin Ridley, when Jeffrey Simmons, when J.C. Latham, do you see what I'm getting at? Denard Wilson. You could go through and find nearly every guy on the roster that has let the team down at some point and has resulted in this season that has been so bad. It's a team effort when you win. It's a team effort when you lose and you're terrible. The Titans are terrible, and there's a lot of different reasons why. The coach has not been good enough. The quarterback has not been good enough. The offensive line has not been good enough. The secondary has not been good enough. I mean, you can just go on and on and on. Nobody's been good enough. When you're 3-10 and you look as bad as the Titans do, that means that nobody has been good enough. And we can sit here all day and debate who's the most to blame, but you could make a case for about 10 different people being the most to blame. You could make the case for NPF. You could make the case for Brian Callahan. You could make the case for Calvin Ridley. You can make the case for Will. You can make the case for Jeff. There's a ton of guys. You could make the case for L'Jarius Sneed. There's a lot of guys you could place a lot of blame at. But when you're 3-10, it's all valid. That is this week's Titans Reddit segment. Bye.